a trillion-dollar deficit, a financial crisis, and a costly recession. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit that for too long we have not always met these responsibilities, as a government or as a people. But while the cost of action will be great, I can assure you that the cost of inaction will be far greater. My job, our job, is to solve the problem. As we stand at this crossroads of history, the eyes of all people in all nations are once again upon us, watching to see what we do with this moment. Our job is to govern with a sense of responsibility. In other words, we have lived through an era where too often short-term gains were prized over long-term prosperity. Now, I understand that on any given day, Wall Street may be more comforted by an approach that gives bank bailouts with no strings attached and that holds nobody accountable for their reckless decisions. But such an approach won't solve the problem. This time, CEOs won't be able to use taxpayer money to pad their paychecks or buy fancy drapes or disappear on a private jet. Those days are over. Well, that day of reckoning has arrived, and the time to take charge of our future is here. Now is the time to act boldly and wisely, to not only revive this economy, but to build a new foundation for lasting prosperity. Now's the time to jumpstart job creation, restart lending, and invest in areas like energy, healthcare, and education that will grow our economy even as we make hard choices to bring our deficit down. The concern is that if we do not restart lending in this country, our recovery will be choked off before it even begins. And I want to pass a budget next year that ensures that each dollar we spend reflects only our most important national priorities. And yet it is China that has launched the largest effort in history to make their economy energy efficient, by finally ending the tax breaks for corporations that ship our jobs overseas. For it could result in an economy that sputters along for not months or years, but perhaps a decade. That would be worse for our deficit, worse for business, worse for you, and worse for the next generation, and I refuse to let that happen.
There were parents trying to get by from paycheck to paycheck, grandparents trying to get it together on a fixed income, men frustrated that they couldn't support their families after jobs had disappeared. In neighborhoods that had been devastated by the closing of steel plants. Jobs dried up. We know what fairness and justice and opportunity look like.
And I understand that skepticism. Here in Washington, we've all seen how quickly good intentions can turn into broken promises and wasteful spending. The budget I submit will invest in the three areas that are absolutely critical to our economic future: energy, health care, and education. It is time for America to lead again. We have known for decades that our survival depends on finding new sources of energy. For in our hands lies the ability to shape our world. Then someday, years from now, our children can tell their children that this was the time when we performed, in the words that are carved into this very chamber, something worthy to be remembered. The answers to our problems don't lie beyond our reach. They exist in our laboratories, in our universities, in our fields and our factories, in the imaginations of our entrepreneurs, and the pride of the hardest working people on earth. Their resolve must be our inspiration. Their concerns must be our cause.
Very more honored Mr. President, we have made it to our aim to give you with this presentation an overview over the problems and solutions which are of crucial meaning for the survival of the civilization in this century. Of course, such a presentation as this can never raise the requirement of completeness, but we are convinced that the treated strategies for the solution of the given problems are necessary and convincing. For presenting the extensive amount of subjects in a justifiable time, we have omitted very detailed representations. Therefore, the presentation is very clear and well structured. Next to new and new combined proposals for the solution of well-known problems, there is the realization that not as usual a time sequence solution of arbitrarily chosen, separable problems will save civilization from fall. The only way to save civilization from fall is to find a generally accepted solution strategy, which is able to treat all of the mentioned problems parallel under a superordinated master plan. We do not exaggerate by saying that only such a master plan as the presented one will save the survival of our technical civilization, but only if the master plan will be realized in time.
Spoken differently, would there be any use to build up a solar power plant to prevent climate change if melting masses of ice let raise the tension of the lithosphere so far that we have to expect a soon reawakening of a supervolcano, such as the one in the Yellowstone National Park? What would be the use of passing a climate law if the global warming already has started a row of events which will put back our lives to the standards at the end of prime time, and all this within a few years? What would be the use of building electric cars if suddenly nitrogen-binding bacteria are contaminated by a genetically changed virus whose propagation endangers the whole flora to become extinct? This and similar thoughts make it necessary to examine the interactions between the several well-known problems and not only to look on the problems one by one. The complexity shown here has to be understood and accepted. Due to the interdependency and the permanent feedback in between the problems, it is not expectable that the scientific technical solving of a particular arbitrarily chosen problem will have any predictable effect, which can convincingly be claimed to be a political success. Such a time-sequence separable try will lead to unexpected feedback and consequences for the whole dynamic system. There is a justified observation fact that the solving of a so-treated problem will only enforce a row of new, even harder to solve problems.
Considering the obvious alarm flags, may we lie to ourselves and believe ourselves being secure just because some scientists still don't have understood all details, while a row of fatal events which will extinct our civilization has already begun? Maybe it's a paradoxon and only the science itself, which gains knowledge only through an infinite process, which due to its handless condition for us today, prevents the preparation and the realization of a saving master plan on the highest steps of decision? Civilization is already stuck in a dead-end street, and we are the ones to blame for this. This Anthropocene is a problem menacing the existence of life, and this problem is summing up to all of us concerning survival question, which has to be solved in time.
The solving of this problem is not only a question of the survival of the United States of America, but a question of the survival of the whole civilization. It cannot become the matter of the coincidentally play of the markets, whether the problems we will speak about separately later can be solved in time or not. Indeed, the inner complex interaction of these problems can only be managed and dominated by using a generally accepted holistic solution strategy on the higher steps of decision. The step of royal decision, which is worthy and appropriate to your office and historically justified, can only be taken by you, the President. The democracy of the United States of America was born out of the fire of the war fighting against tyranny and arbitrariness. Your democracy has proved itself during the storms of times against all inner and outer enemies. Now your democracy has to show that it is able to face the existential competitions of the new century.
Is democracy not able to face these existential competitions, it will fall down like an ancient empire. But this time it is different as in ancient times. This time it is our well-known civilization which falls down as a whole. Due to the huge dimension of the accumulated unsolved problems, the United States of America just will be dragged along in the global vortex. Only if the responsible elite of the USA finally wakes up, detects the situation and takes over the leading of the realization of the presented saving strategy. Why don't we hand over such a generally accepted, holistic solution strategy to another national or international institution?
Under all state forces, which developed during an eventful history, you, the President of the United States of America, are the only institution whose existence has been born alone and directly out of the will of the population decided by majority to dedicate the leading of the nation to you. Hopes and wishes of the men, not only of the Americans, but of the whole mankind longing for freedom, self-determination and democracy, are situated on your shoulders. You represent the living spirit of the Grounding Fathers, following the path of George Washington in a long tradition. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of Rights are a shining torch, enlightening the path of the nation to be a role model of freedom and democracy to the world.
Therefore, we see it as a holy duty that not only American citizens, but all responsible human beings, distinguished by special talents, courage and the will to decide, support you as the President in the fulfillment of your office, to grant the majority of the population permanent success in searching luck and prosperity. Success, which is finally the most effective weapon in the fight against racism, fundamentalism and despising nationalism. Your success in the office as President means progress for the American nation and at the same time hope for every nation, which did not find the path of freedom and democracy from own strength. To support you means to serve the American nation. To serve the American nation means to help the world. This presentation is meant as a first grand contribution to give you the support we are feeling appointed and obligated to. What is the further process of this presentation?
First, we name 6 superordinated problems called crises, which will get stamped, colored, and numbered plates for the presentation. These superordinated problems are sketched to an appropriate question, which will lead us the way to further subordinated problems. The mentioned subordinated problems also get colored and numbered plates, which will be maintained over the whole presentation. Same is valid for the appropriate solutions. As a part of the superordinated problems, we only describe the financial crisis in detail in the appendix because the causes for the financial crisis are playing a key role for the outbreak of the cataclysmic cascades, which has led to the survival crisis of our civilization. Otherwise, in the introduction you already saw, we only treated the superordinated problems on the surface, because the emphasis of our presentation is lying on the solution of the problems and not on describing the problems themselves.
After the following introduction of the catalogue of questions, we directly lead you to the solving of the subordinated problems, which will later assemble back to the superordinated problems and their solutions. In this way, we finally answer the questions of the superordinated problems clearly and logically. At the end of the presentation, we will risk a look in the future, when the described problems can't be solved in time anymore. A future which seems already very trusted to us, and to which we get used to at the moment. A future which inevitably will become a nightmare-like situation for us, if we don't start global countermeasures immediately. The nonlinear dynamic, which is part of the complex network of the interacting problems, would otherwise stop this nightmare in an infernal fluxion with global measurement, which is shown by scientific analysis and which is proved by past epochs. Therefore, there is the need of a holistic solution strategy like the presented one. And it's your special privilege to take up and realize this solution strategy. We wish you joy with this presentation and hope to give you some suggestions. Like mentioned before, we picture the central problems on the according questions. It is obvious that the central problems can be divided analytically into subordinated problems, so we also picture the subordinated problems on the according questions. All problems and questions are provided with small, colored and numbered plates, which are used over the whole span of the presentation. For every of subordinated problems, we show the path to the solution, which are based on the use of common sense, ethical responsibility, science, techniques, and the today available art of engineering. The solutions pointed out in this presentation were developed to solve the according problem prudently, completely and permanently. We want to prevent that the solving of a problem raises a comparable but bigger problem in the future. In this case, the presented solution would not be a solution anymore, but only a shifting of the problem which future generations had to pay bitterly.
So, every of the provided solutions is self-evident and from the perspective of common sense the best solution which is possible anyhow. After having processed the subordinated problems, we want to show how the solutions of the subordinated problems sum up to the solving of the primarily mentioned central problems. With this remark, what kind of official, financial and organizational ways have to be gone to grant lastingness and durability of the problem solving? We know it might look as if we reach for the stars if we try to solve all these problems parallel in time, but actually, this is the only opportunity to save our civilization from fallen time. Which chance would following generations have to solve the existential problems if we, the preceding generation, have already taken the means from them?
An astonishing event shall be named before. As a result of the use of the sketched strategies, the American nation, like phoenix from ashes, will rise from the pressuring disease without being in need of the unstable political will of other nations. The United States of America, alone based on its potential will, successfully solve some of the global problems other nations also had been responsible for. In this manner, the United States of America won back a social and economic lead, which had been shrinking during the past years. At the same time, the United States will convince in their role as leading democratic power. In the opinion of the nations and for the people, there is nothing more convincing than that the United States will solve their problems autonomously, out of its own power, out of its well-known strengths, will be reawake and shine again like a lightning torch.
For history tells a different story. History reminds us that at every moment of economic upheaval and transformation, this nation has responded with bold action and big ideas. We invented solar technology, but we've fallen behind countries like Germany and Japan in producing it.
Diagnostic complete. Sensors are functioning normally.
Speaking of our auto industry, everyone recognizes that years of bad decision-making and a global recession have pushed our automakers to the brink. We should not and will not protect them from their own bad practices. We will invest $15 billion a year to develop technologies like wind power and solar power, advanced biofuels, clean coal, and more efficient cars and trucks built right here in America. Making our homes and buildings more efficient so that we can save billions of dollars on our energy bills. Our recovery plan will invest in electronic health records and new technology that will reduce errors, bring down costs, ensure privacy, and save lives. you.